So in this video, I want to talk about, the great Thomas Sowell, right? And all the things that he's taught me when it comes to trying to understand the left, right? Because over these past 4 years, he's really helped shape, the thoughts and ideas when it comes to me understanding politics, economics, social issues. And because let's be honest, like he's one of the great thinkers of our time. And the fact that he's not talked about more is a travesty. Like I know many conservatives talk about him, but like overall, like he's just not talked about enough. And what's even worse is like the black community. Like I think if you ask many black people if they know who Thomas Sowell is, they probably wouldn't. But, of course, they know the athletes, the entertainers, the celebrities. They know them. But the fact that they don't know a great mind like Thomas Sowell is a shame. So in this video, I just want to go over some of the things that, he's taught me when it comes to really trying to understand the left. So the first thing is, when it comes to understanding the left, right, is that the fact that many people on the left think they are morally superior than you, right? If you're someone that disagrees with some of their thoughts or ideas, their policies, they'll find any way to disparage you, right? By calling you fascist or racist or sexist or whatever type of name to say that, because you don't understand our policies and you don't agree with it, you're the bad person, right? Instead of just, taking criticism and trying to come up with a better idea. If you don't agree with their policies or their ideas, you're the bad person. And they truly have this idea where they are better than you, and their policies that they implement is there to just save the world, which is crazy, especially as someone that used to be a Democrat and now I'm on the other side. You see it firsthand. So it's crazy, seeing that out in the open. Next, another thing that's, Thomas Sowell, you'll see this a lot in a lot of his books, is that he talks about how there's no solutions, only trade-offs. And when you see a lot of people on the left, they feel like, they can solve every social issue with their policies, with an idea. They think they can solve it outright. When you really try to understand, Thomas Sowell, he talks about how there's no solutions. Like there's always a trade-off. Okay, like for example, like minimum wage, right? Like yes, you implement minimum wage, and yes, that reduces poverty for some, but you're going to create unemployment for others. Right. And the best thing you want to do is just try to find the most economic way to solve a problem, because there's always going to be a trade-off. But Democrats, people on the left, they always think they can solve a problem with their policies. Now, next, right? Intentions doesn't equal results. And the thing is, when you talk to a lot of people on the left and you hear their ideas, like they judge their policies are judged by their intentions, not by their outcomes. Okay. And a good example is this welfare, right? They look at welfare as, helping a lot of people, right? Or there's a lot of people that struggle, with finances, so let's give them welfare. However, yes, your intentions may sound good, but the outcome is that when you implement welfare, it creates a lot of people that are dependent on government. And that's not what we want. We don't want to create dependency. We want people to find a way. You want to make sure you help them, but find a way for them to become independent and help them to get out of this situation for themselves. But the more people that you put on welfare, especially you see that in the black community and other communities, the more people that are on welfare, the more they are dependent and feel like they're entitled to other people's tax dollars to help feed their family, to take care of them, to provide housing for them. And that's not the way you want to be. Not only that, but when you look at rent control, right? The intention is that you want to create affordable housing, but what it does is create shortages, right, in the market. And you wonder why places like California and New York has such expensive housing. So that's one thing that you learn about the left, is that, the intentions, they never equal the actual results. And it seems that the left doesn't really understand that. Now, the next thing I learned is that equality of opportunity versus equality of outcome. And Democrats, they have this thing where they talk about, equity, equality, and that fact that it's not fair that everybody doesn't start in the same spot. And that's life. Like, of course, we're not going to start in the same spot. Some people are going to be further ahead than others. And that's just life, right? But if you work hard, and as long as you have the opportunities to advance and better your life, that you can do that. But with the Democrats, they try to create this scenario where, hey, if this person is starting further behind the person, we have to create a policy or a program that puts them on equal footing, when that's just impossible. Like, it does. No matter how much I train, how much I work out, or how much I do whatever, I'll never be LeBron James, right? And you can't create that opportunity. You can't create that outcome for me where I'm also going to be on the Lakers, playing alongside LeBron James, right? It's never going to happen. But with Democrats, they try to create that. And the thing you learn is that you can't have both freedom and equality of outcome, right? If you try to create this outcome, you're going to take somebody's freedom away. right? And you think about, and you, for example, like affirmative action. Yes, you probably want to get a certain minority group into a door, but then that's at the expense of someone that's probably more qualified. And they do this a lot when it comes to affirmative action, which is why, this is such a controversial issue. You try to take this person, oh, this minority group is they don't have a fair chance, so let's bump them up and put them in a situation where they may not be qualified, and that comes at the expense of someone that's more qualified, and that's not what you want. Okay, and the same thing with income redistribution, right? They're like, oh my goodness, like people are struggling financially, like let's tax these people to pay for that. So it's just, when you look at these things, it's just you learn when it comes to these liberals, they always trying to find ways to create outcomes when all you want is just the opportunity. That's the most important. Give people an opportunity and let them do the rest. Okay. Next, liberals like to ignore incentives, right? We're human beings. Like we operate on incentives. Okay. If we're incentivized to do something, we're going to take action in order to do that. Like, for example, like welfare, right? When you implement welfare, what does that do? It reduces the incentive to work. Okay, like if you're gonna tell people that, hey, we'll give you money, don't worry about housing, don't worry about food, we'll give you everything you need. Why work? Like, why would I need to work? I don't need to do anything. The government's gonna take care of me. Right. And you see that all the time. Like, there's people that are entitled and say your tax should go to feeding me. And we don't want that. And not only that, look at rent control, where, it discourages landlords from, maintaining their property. Right. And like if I'm not going to make any money, if I'm not going to make a profit, what's the point of me maintaining this property? Which is why rent controls don't even work as well. And you have to understand, you have to incentivize the people to do what you want when it comes to anything in life, whether it comes to marriage, having children, when it comes to work. Human beings need to be incentivized. As long as they're incentive, the people will do what they do, need what's necessary in order to get the things that they want. But if you take away that incentive, then people are just going to say, what's the point? Right? Finally, liberals, the Democrats, like the way they use words, all right, and labels. Like things like social justice, diversity, right? These are things that, how can you go against these things, right? Like social justice, how can you be against social justice? How can you be against diversity, right? Diversity is our strength, which is absolute nonsense. Like, diversity is only good as long as we all agree on the same if we all agree on the same values. If we don't agree on the same values, diversity doesn't work. Okay, but the Democrat and the left like to use these words against you, like to say, hey, like how could you be against this social justice and diversity, right? to push their agenda, to get more control, and that's what they do. Then when in reality they don't really care. All this virtue signaling is just for power, right? And this is the thing is, like, this country would be in such a better place if more people listen to a person like Thomas Sowell, because he has so much knowledge, and he breaks all this down in such a way that's easy to digest. And he has such a grasp on how these the left uses social justice, how to use race, how to use inequality to push their agenda, to get more power, even though that they don't really care about these issues. They don't really care about the people that are being hurt by this. They just care about making sure that they stay in power. Right, but they're really good at packaging and messaging that to say, hey, how do we're trying to help people. That's where we're for the poor, we're for the less vulnerable. Right, but when in reality we know that's not true. So those are the things that Thomas Sowell helped teach me when it comes to like really understanding the left, these liberals. And as someone that used to be a Democrat and now going down the more conservative rabbit hole, you really get to see out front what their agenda is and what they're trying to do and how they're destroying the economy, all because they just want to stay in power. And they're really good at using minorities and the less fortunate to push their agenda. So those are my thoughts. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. Make sure you leave a comment down below with the like button, share. And if you haven't done so, make sure to subscribe. So guys, take care. Have a good one. Later.